Hey, hockey fans, welcome to the Across the Pond Hockey Podcast YouTube channel. If it's your first time here and you'd like to support us, please hit that subscribe button and that like button. It goes a long way in helping us develop the program. Before we get to tonight's episode, I have to take a minute to thank our wonderful sponsors, starting with the China Hockey Group. The China Hockey Group is a family-oriented group of ice hockey leagues, training programs, and community initiatives geared towards developing hockey in Southeast Asia. From their incredible Junior Tigers program all the way up to the CIHL, which is Hong Kong's elite full-contact ice hockey league, they have a program suitable for players of all ages and abilities. You can also stop by the Warrior Bauer Hockey Shop in Central for all your equipment needs and skate sharpening. Check out their website for more information at ChinaHockeyGroup.com. That's ChinaHockeyGroup.com. Next, we have our friends at Accessory House Global. If you're like me and your headphones look like this, it's time to head to AccessoryHouseGlobal.com for any accessories you need for your headphones. From cables to carrying cases to new ear pads, they carry products for all the biggest brands. Head to their website at AccessoryHouseGlobal.com. Use the promo code ATP20 for 20% off your purchase. That's AccessoryHouseGlobal.com. Next, we have our pals over at Wheel Hub Asia. These guys are committed to building community and bringing accessibility to inline hockey players across Southeast Asia. They're heading into year 2 of Hong Kong's newest inline league, 3 Inline. You can head to their website for all of your inline hockey needs at wheelhubasia.com. Enter discount code ATP10 for 10% off your purchase. That's wheelhubasia.com. Next, we have our friends at Yardley Brothers Craft Brewery. Folks, if you're a craft brew fan and you're in Hong Kong, then you absolutely have to check out Yardley Brothers' incredible selection of award-winning brews. You can head to the Beer Shack on Llama Island or the Yardley Brothers Cafe and Bistro at 62 Peel Street in Central. If you can't get out of the house, no problem. Just head to their website, yardleybrothers.hk, and you can get their delicious products delivered right to your door. That's yardleybrothers.hk. Last but not least, a huge thank you to Mr. Paul McLean at Sunset Studio in Kennedy Town for always making the podcast sound great. If you're looking for a place to jam with your band or record a new song, check them out on Instagram at sunset_studio_HK. That's sunset_studio_HK. Folks, the websites and description will be in the description. All the discount codes will be there for you. Please check them out and support our wonderful sponsors.
Hey, hockey fans, welcome to Across the Pond Hockey Talks Volume 48. Today, I'm really excited to have my very first guest from Japan. He's been a professional hockey coach for nearly 20 years, born in Tokyo, comes from an amazing hockey family, and he's currently the coach of the, you can correct me if I'm wrong here later, Chris, but the Tohoku Free Blades of the Asia Ice Hockey League. So please welcome to Across the Pond Hockey Talks, Mr. Chris Wakabayashi. How are you, man?
Doing very good. Thank you for having me.
I'm super excited to talk to you. Like I said there, you're the very first guest from Japan. I know very little about the professional league that you've been coaching in for nearly 20 years. So really excited to find out about that and share some of your story with our listeners. First of all, Chris, tell me a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, and when you started with the game of hockey.
Yes, so I was born in Tokyo, Japan, and my father's second generation Japanese Canadian, and my mother's Japanese. So I grew up with hockey all through my life. My dad at the time, I think, was coaching in Japan when I was born. And pretty much from third grade to graduating university, I was going to school in North America.
Okay.
So pretty much, I'm North American.
Yeah. So you grew up watching and enjoying hockey like we did. Tell me, well, obviously you've had some very influential hockey players in your family. Tell me a little bit, first of all, about your dad. And you just mentioned he was coaching when you were a kid, but he had a long career and was actually, a first star All-American in the NCAA, had a great NCAA career, and it looks like he became a player coach as well. So tell me a little bit about your dad and the influence he's had on you.
Yeah, he's been my idol growing up, but I know he was born in a internment camp in British Columbia during World War II.
Oh, wow.
And all the Japanese Canadians at the time were gathered together, and they're in a camp in BC. And I think when the war was over, my grandparents, they moved out east, and they settled in Chatham, Ontario.
Okay.
And he grew up playing hockey there and baseball. Actually, he was a very good baseball player. He played baseball with Fergie Jenkins.
Oh, wow.
Hall of Famer there. And and then he got a scholarship to University of Michigan, which he never thought he would have that opportunity, and played baseball and hockey at Michigan. And then he signed with the Red Wings at the time, and he's only 5'5".
Wow.
Just amazing. And he played I think 1 year in the minors. And then he was recruited to go to Japan, preparing for the Sapporo Olympics in '72.
Okay.
So I think he moved to Japan in '69 or so. And then my uncle Herb, he was an All-American at BU, Boston University, and he followed a year later. And they were preparing to play for Japan at the Olympics. And my dad actually didn't change his citizenship, because at the time pros weren't allowed to play, and he signed a pro contract. So technically he wasn't eligible to play. So my uncle got his Japanese citizenship, and he played in the Sapporo Olympics in '72, and he also played at Lake Placid in '80.
Wow.
And then my dad was the head coach for the '80 Olympic team in Lake Placid. So that's
incredible.
He's been a big influence in my life. He was away a lot, so didn't get to spend much time with him. And I also moved away from my parents when I was in 6th grade. We were living in Anchorage, Alaska at the time. And my dad was moving back to Japan to coach the pro team there full time. So the family moved to Japan. I wanted to continue my education in North America. So from then on, I was pretty much on my own. Stayed with my relatives during junior high in Ontario, and went to boarding school. I went to prep school out east in Connecticut.
Okay.
And then I followed my dad's footsteps, went to University of Michigan, but I wasn't good as my dad, so didn't play there.
Okay.
But I went to school, yes.
Well, I'm looking at your dad's stats, Chris, and I don't know if there are too many players that were as good as your dad. I mean, 3.11 points a game in his NCAA career. That's unimaginable. Especially like you said, a guy who's 5'5". For him to be that successful and then even get a chance at the pros is absolutely incredible. So yeah, congrats to your dad. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, he actually had a pretty good camp, and I think it was only 6 teams back then. So right, I think if he would have hanged it out there, he would have been able to maybe make it when they expanded. But he also was invited to the Detroit Tigers training camp.
Oh no!
And and he did a pretty good job in baseball, and they said he was too short as a second baseman.
Oh, yeah. Jose Altuve. I mean, come on.
So yeah, he was a very good two-sport athlete. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so Chris, you like you said, you weren't exactly the same caliber player that your dad was, maybe, but you obviously you developed the same passion and love for the game. It was the mid 90s when you actually started your coaching career. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that and how you managed to go from your university days in Michigan and how you ended up coaching Team Japan and as a manager in 1995?
Yeah, it was, I loved hockey, and I kept playing at the U of M at the intramural level. And then I also, wanted a coach. My dad was coaching at the time, and I was really interested, and I started volunteering for a local high school, Huron High School in Ann Arbor, and then my senior year in university, it was the North American Junior Hockey League, and helped out with the Michigan Dearborn Heights Nationals. I think that was the team's name. So I got into coaching pretty early, and then after graduating university, I went back to Japan and went back to the team that my dad was coaching, but we kind of like we weren't on the same team at the same time. Like he went back to Toronto, and I started playing. But at the time, that season, my team announced that they weren't gonna play with any imports.
Okay.
And at the time, I was a Canadian citizen, because when you're born in Japan, you go by your father's citizenship.
Okay.
And my dad was Canadian, so I had a Canadian passport. So I was in the process of getting my Japanese passport. So basically, I was a practice player that season.
Okay.
And which was fine with me, because I wasn't playing competitive hockey for 4 years, so I had to get my body back. And but the interesting thing with me was that season, Japan was preparing for the Nagano Olympics in '98.
Right. Yeah.
And they hired Dave King from the NHL,
Yeah.
to be their head coach, and they needed a translator.
Okay.
And what happened was, the owner of my team is very tight with the Japan Ice Hockey Federation, and he basically told me that, Chris, you're going to the federation to help out with the Olympic team. So I was kind of forced into retirement.
The start of your career. You're going to start with an Olympic as an Olympic team consultant.
Yeah, so
that's incredible.
Yeah, so I, started working for the federation. I was a translator for Dave King, and got to travel all around the world, meeting different hockey people, and that's kind of where my coaching career started, because you got to understand what he's saying, and then you got to relay it to the players. And I was in all the meetings, because the federation was trying to develop Japanese coaches as well. So anything he does, there's Japanese coaches around, and I was there translating, and that kind of set the tone for me. And after the Olympics in '98, the team that I was going to play for, they hired me back as a translator for their foreign coach, which was Billy Moores. He was a legend at University of Alberta.
Okay, yeah.
And he coached with the Rangers and the Oilers. But and then I think that's when people kind of saw me as a potential candidate as a coach. But my boss, instead of leaving me in the hockey world in Japan, he told me to go work for his hotel in Tokyo. Okay. So he owns a big hotel chain, and I was working there for 3 years. So I was
You're out of hockey.
Like hockey, but on my spare time, I was coaching local high school kids in Tokyo. And also I was doing color commentator for NHL games.
Amazing.
At
That's
the time.
my dream job. You've already done
it. So, and then 3 years go by, and I'm like, well, I love hockey, I don't want to be in the hotel business. And so I was kind of looking to, find a new job. And then my old team came calling and said, hey, Chris, would you like to be an assistant coach? And right there on the spot, I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
So
go back for one sec, Chris. You kind of jumped over the fact that you got to learn how to coach hockey from Dave King. I mean, what an incredible learning opportunity, especially early in your career. What did you take from him? Like, what are some of the things that you remember most about either his demeanor or his overall outlook of the game?
Yeah, Dave was very attention to detail. He used a lot of video, and at the time, video wasn't a thing back then. And also he was really demanding of his players. Yeah, he was like a
Yeah.
school teacher, yeah, and teaching the game, and then setting high expectations for the players. So yeah, it was a great learning experience, and
Yeah.
yeah, to learn from a guy like that, starting up, it's
Yeah. Not many people
yeah.
get that opportunity, man. He's a
No,
absolute legend. So yeah,
yeah.
incredible experience. So when you started, it was actually called the Japan Ice Hockey League, correct? So
Yes.
the league did change names, it looks like, in 2003. So you got your start coaching, how do you say it, Kokudo?
Yeah, Kokudo
Kokudo.
bunnies.
Okay. Yeah, great name. So you're also coaching at World Championships as well. So at that time, can you tell me a little bit about the development of the Japanese Olympic team or the World Championship team, the national team that you were a part of? And just I'm sure they were just getting their start after Nagano, and then what happened after that, and how did that team develop?
Yeah, I think that the federation did a great job trying to develop players for Nagano, and then after Nagano, unfortunately, the economy in Japan, like the bubble burst, and it really went into a recession, and then with that, hockey became a very like a burden to a lot of corporations, and then teams started folding, and then club teams were kind of developing and forced to try to manage on their own.
Right.
So it was kind of the timing was kind of bad, because there's a lot of good players, and then a lot of good imports came, for a lot of former NHLers played, and the level of the league was pretty good. It was very high, but unfortunately the economy was going down and teams weren't able to sustain, and so yeah, the timing was a little bit off. But I think Japan was trying to find its way, and after the Nagano Olympics, the International Ice Hockey Federation had a one spot for at the World Championships, top division, for they call it the Far East Asia team.
And you guys were the
So
strongest out here at that time?
at the time, yeah, Korea was their only opponent,
Yeah.
and Japan was able to beat Korea and go to the World Championships. So I actually was fortunate to go to, I think, 3 top division World Championships, and I got to see Ovechkin when he was he had a full cage on, playing top line in Russia for Russia, and yeah, but yeah, and then we didn't get to win a game, and then one year we were close beating Denmark, and I don't know if you've seen like it always makes like the TSN oh no plays of the year, but
Yeah.
one of our defensemen scored a one-timer goal in a 3-3 game, in the middle of the third period, and yeah, that kind of put us in a hole.
I'm gonna have to go back, but that does sound familiar.
Yeah.
But I mean, come on, you guys are playing in Division One World Championships. You're probably not a really experienced team, but I mean, this brings me to where we're at now with what's happening in China. Like, how do you feel about a team that's maybe understaffed, not competitive enough to really compete with the teams that are there? Is it a good opportunity for the team to learn and develop, or is it a chance to really hurt the system and the development of the program? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you kind of have to have a balance. You gotta be able to play top level hockey to improve. And especially in Japan, where we're like an island country, where you're not able to move to different countries and play each other. So that experience was huge for top players in our country.
Right.
But in some games the level is so you know so big that sometimes it does hurt confidence. But I think you got to kind of take that in stride and
100%.
focus on the good things and try to get better. But yeah, that opportunity is like you see it in other countries too, when they move up to the top division and gain that experience and be able to sustain it, and then they develop and move up in the rankings. There's a big difference between Division One, the top division, and then Division 1A.
Right.
So
that overall, you would say it has been a positive experience for you guys starting at that level and, getting your butts handed to you and coming back the next year for more. And I mean, that just says something about the federation itself. But would you say overall, that's kind of the story of the Japanese ice hockey team?
Yes, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
That's great. I mean, so you've been to a few world championships. You've been coaching. You were assistant coach for a long time. You've won 5 championships in the Asian League. So you're no slouch to winning, Chris. What? Tell me a little bit about the league now. I want to know the level of hockey. If you could compare it to something for our listeners that they might be able to understand, and also, just the overall direction of the league. What can you tell me about it?
Yeah, I think the Asian League, when it started, it was only the Japanese team and one Korean team, and then it grew into more teams in Korea, and then some teams in China jumped in, and then now we have a Russian team, Sakhalin jumping in, and I think the level has gotten a lot better. Obviously with Korea, working towards their, Olympics in Pyeongchang and, and their development. And I think the league of the level is probably the highest that it's ever been. But on the other hand, like just domestically, the Japanese teams, we've been kind of struggling because of a lot of things. Like I told you about the economy situation, and also Japan having a low birth rate. There's less kids, and then there's less kids playing hockey because soccer is now popular, and baseball was popular before, and then now basketball is gearing up. So there's a lot of competition within Japan to play different sports.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the Russian team coming in and the Korean teams getting stronger, and now they move past Japan in the world rankings.
Okay.
The level of the league is very good, and I think it's comparable to the East Coast Hockey League.
Okay.
I think the style is different, obviously.
Yeah, maybe a little probably wouldn't be rough.
Yeah, it's not as rough. And we play on the big ice, so more space. But right now, Yushiro Hirano, I think he's playing in Toledo or Cincinnati. He's leading the coast in goals right now.
Right.
One
of your players, one of your former guys.
He played for us, and he played for the Yokohama Grits early in the season. So.
Cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So is there 4 local Japanese teams in the league, and then you've got a team from Russia and a team from China? Is that what you said?
Right now it's 5 Japanese teams. Okay. But the 5th one was formed last year, and from last year, because of the COVID-19 effects, we've only had the 5 Japanese teams play together. Like, we're not traveling to Korea or Russia. Gotcha. So before the COVID thing, it was 2 Korean teams, 1 Russian team, and 4 Japanese teams. But now it's 5 Japanese teams, and hopefully, we can get that Asian League getting started up again. When things
seems like it was just getting kind of the ball was just kind of getting rolling, and China was getting on board, and you got a couple teams from Korea, and then COVID hits and just messes. Yeah. Well, that's pretty crazy story, man. And tell me a little bit about your current team right now. And I've looked at your guys' roster, and is it 2 import players you're allowed? And it seems they're both Canadians.
Yes, the league rules to imports, and actually, from last season, we didn't take any imports, just Japanese guys. We do have a Japanese Canadian, Simone Denis, but he has a Japanese passport.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, the league rules to imports, and only one team this year has imports. Yeah, I think a lot of teams, financially, they want to kind of stay a little bit safe, so to speak.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah.
So, what are your current plans right now? I mean, obviously, the whole league and everyone's leagues are in shambles right now due to COVID. But what does the future hold for your team, and what is your plans for the future?
Yeah, I think the league right now, for some reason they made it first half, second half regular season, and you had a first half champion and a second half champion, and then they go to the playoffs. So kind of a different format this year.
Yeah.
So just starting our second half season. So hopefully, we finished fourth in the first half. So hopefully we finish second or first and make our way to the playoffs. And then as for, yeah, like I think, hockey in Japan, I think a lot of younger kids right now are going to North America. Like there's a lot of kids playing in NCAA Division One. There's a couple kids playing in USHL.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we see a lot more kids going abroad. So and I think the U20s got bronze medal in their division this season. So kids are developing, and hopefully, after COVID, settles down here, I think get more teams in the top league so that there'll be more opportunities for kids to play, and just overall for the league and the hockey itself in Japan. It's really centered around the northern part of the country.
Right.
The pro teams, you got one in Yokohama, but and then everything else is up north.
Yeah.
And
most of the it's absolutely gorgeous up there. I was in Hokkaido 2 years ago for Christmas, and just absolute paradise. Absolute paradise.
Yeah. It's a great place, a great part of the country.
Yeah.
And most of the I would say 80% of the players come from two cities in Hokkaido. Like Tomakomai and Kushiro, which is in Canada it'd be like Edmonton and Calgary.
Okay. Yeah.
So you get most of your players from two cities. So but I think to get the sport more recognition domestically, we got to get more teams down south, out west, and kind of build from there. And then you get kids playing in those areas too. More there are teams down there, and I think in a 10-year span, you get more kids playing hockey, more exposure, and then you get better kids.
Yeah.
To develop, and you also need the coaching too.
Yeah.
Which is important. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be short-sighted. You got to be looking at the long-term effects of what you're doing. And I'm sure take that into consideration all the time. But I have talked to a lot of people from places like Malaysia and Thailand where the sport is growing as well. And they're all similar things to what you're saying to help to develop the sport in the country. What's it going to take? And hometown hero is something that keeps popping up. You need a few guys that have made it, a few guys that local kids are going to start looking up to. What are your thoughts on what it's going to take to get Japan ice hockey to the next level besides, what you said, getting more teams in the country?
Yes, I think, I think you need a mixture of a couple things where Japan, the country itself, is really focused on the Olympics.
Yeah.
It's a Olympics centered country where, you do well, at the Olympics, everyone goes crazy, so, I think the women's, they'll be going to their third straight Olympics, which is great. And I think if the men's could get there, it'd be a bigger impact, and, having the women's and men's competing at the Olympics would be huge.
Yeah.
And then another thing is, just you need more hockey in the central part of Tokyo, in that area. That's where everything is,
Hmm.
all the attention is there. And if we can get hockey in Tokyo, and more popularity there, and then it will trickle down to all the, different parts of the country. So we got to find a way to do that. But, rinks are, getting shut down in Tokyo anyway. So I think it's a big battle there. But, I think the federation has to find a plan and try to develop, kids, and then also try to get more recognition, and then, and then kids will start to play more.
Right.
And
yeah, I think you're definitely hit the nail on the head there. So there's a lot of things that need to happen, but there seem to be happening, and our fingers are crossed for you. I really hope that the sport can, make its way down to Tokyo and start to grow, because as we all know, hockey is an incredible sport, and it's growing quite quickly all around Asia. So we need the leaders of the sports like you guys in Korea to continue to grow, because that's what's going to push all the other countries to get better. Chris, before I let you go, first of all, I want to give a quick shout out to our friend Kosuke Kida, who hooked me up with you for this interview. So thanks, Kos. Really appreciate that. And just a quick thought. What are your thoughts on the Olympics? I mean, we're going to have a lot of things are happening right now. I just read a rumor that it doesn't look like the NHL players are going to be going at this point. The rumors are pretty strong. What are your thoughts, first of all, on should pro players be playing in the Olympics? Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I think either way, the sport itself is exciting, and the competition is great. I was fortunate to be in Vancouver to watch I was there at the gold medal game when Crosby scored and just, it's amazing. So, the best players being able to play, that's great. And I think, you gotta take that in when the opportunity is there. But if they don't, I still think, the product on the ice is, a high level, and guys compete, and I think, they play for their country with a lot of pride, and that itself, I think, is just something that you want to cheer for. So it's a great sport, great game. And I think either way, you can't lose.
There you go. I'm going to end it on that, buddy. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I wish you nothing but the best, and I'll be checking in on you maybe in the future to see what you're up to.
Yeah, please come to Japan. And
hey, I've been there many times, and the next time I come, I'm definitely hooking up with you for a few games.
Okay, looking forward to it.
All right, Chris, take care, man. That was Across the Pond, and that's a wrap.
Thank you to our amazing sponsors, the China Hockey Group, Wheel Hub Asia, AccessoryHouseGlobal.com, Yardley Brothers Beer, and of course, Sunset Studio. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Across the Pond HK. Email us, send in your comments and questions to the show at any time at acrossthepondhk@gmail.com.